Okay, Christina,
Yes.
tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe your concept of innovation and how it leverages what you do.
Okay. Hello, my name is Christina Guevara, and I'm the secondary school principal at Spectrum Academy. We are a public charter school for students with autism. Currently, we serve students in grades kindergarten through 12 plus. We have locations in Pleasant Grove, which is in Utah County, and in North Salt Lake. This is our. That's okay. No. Thank you. Thank you. Is that better?
Oh, there
Perfect.
we go.
Okay. We have two locations, Pleasant Grove and North Salt Lake. Being a public charter school, students get into our buildings through a lottery system. And so as we've grown, we originally started with a single building in North Salt Lake, and we service students kindergarten through 8th grade. So as we've grown, again, the needs of transition have, we tried to meet that with our students by expanding into having high schools and having very specific and strategic transition programs for our students. In regards to partnerships with different entities, that's really been our strength in being able to provide opportunities for our students where we have wonderful partnerships with established programs such as DATC, the Davis Applied Technology College in Kaysville, Utah. However, we've also embarked on designing our own programming. We have our CREATE program where we're developing different pathways for our students where the supports from the outside are allowing us to train our students in-house, offer them the daily supports of not just developing vocational skills, but also those life skills, social skills, and any other transition skills that they tell us that they need.
Thank you. Dr. Teresa Cardin, who is a Sun Devil, I'd like to point out.
Thank you.
Being a Sun Devil myself and having failed miserably at the baseball tryout, I'm happy to meet another Sun Devil after these long years.
Well, being a Sun Devil can tell you that when the clouds come out here, I kind of look around wondering what's happening. It's actually kind of strange. And I've been here almost 5 years, and it's still strange. Anyway, my name is Teresa Cardin, and I am actually the director of the Melissa Nellison Center for Autism down at Utah Valley University. If you have not heard about us, we have our our ribbon cutting on the new building May 3rd for the center. So please come join us. We're really excited. I think I will be spending lots of time in that building just having Zen moments for the fact that it's done. So at UVU, we do a lot with innovation and public-private partnerships. We actually wouldn't even have a building or a center if it wasn't for public-private partnerships. Our entire program has been funded by private donors. So that's pretty amazing. It's the first time that's happened at UVU where an entire building and an entire program is just from private donors. We kind of are building those partnerships more and more. One of the main programs that we've done for adults in transition is students who are graduating from high school who all of a sudden want to go to college perhaps or are thinking about a job. We have a program called Passages, and I have some flyers and handouts I'll leave somewhere for people to make sure they can grab. But that's one of our main programs, and that's kind of morphed into another program on campus for students, which is our one-on-one tutoring program. So not tutoring in the traditional sense, like, oh, I need help with math, or I need help with English, or writing my papers, or things like that. It's more executive functioning tutoring. We actually have a lot of students who do just fine with the academic aspects of their classes, but really struggle to remember to turn things in on time, or to go to class, or to participate in a group project. I know a lot of people in college hate group projects. Well, many people I know on the spectrum really hate group projects. So anyway, that's one of the things that we do, but we have a lot of fun with our public-private partnerships. I have to tell you, it's been amazing. We have some big announcements that will be happening on May 3rd about some new partnerships that we have coming. So we'll have to leave that as a teaser as we're waiting to sign documents. But
Awesome. Next, I'd like to introduce you to another fundraiser, Safia Keller. Sorry, yeah, you. She's a piece of work, she's a force of nature, and she will now tell you why.
So I came to Columbus Community Center almost a year ago to the day, and I was recruited. I was very happily employed at Westminster College. Had been there 10 years and was recruited by Stephanie Mackay. And I'm gonna, I'm the Chief Employment Development Officer, so I'm over 3 departments: supported employment, our new Next Work autism program, and then a new program called Columbus Connects. That is a program that is a grant from the state through vocational rehab for pre-ETS services. These are a lot of our partners up here in our Next Work program. And I just wanted to give a little background on how and why this is important to me. My son McLean was born in 1995, and he was at the beginning of this wave that we hear about and that people allude to. He'll be 22 years old next week. And between 2000 and 2008, there was a 300% increase in the diagnosis of autism in Utah. So that means between 2018 and 2020, these young adults are coming out of school. And do the math, 300%. There are going to be a lot of them, just like McLean. He got enrolled in the U of U Autism Research Study Project with Dr. Lane Hart and Dr. McMahon in the year of 2000 when he was 5. And I agree with Elliot wholeheartedly. McLean is a gift, as are his talents, his views on the world, and his empathy towards others. Employment has been a serious challenge. Oh, that is too bad that doesn't come through, because that is a fabulous picture. He did have a job for 6 months, and this employer really wanted to do the right thing. They wanted to have someone with a disability in their employ. They'd never hired anyone with a disability, so they did that, but they weren't equipped with the tools. They didn't know how to deal with McLean, and he was kind of pushed aside and not allowed to, his place of employment was where the public was. And he wasn't allowed really to interact with the public. And towards the end of his, and he, much to his credit, self-advocated. And at the end of his time with them, he called me up and said, "I am an educator. I am not a maintenance guy, and I quit." And he walked out, and that was the end of that. We're now looking for employment for McLean, working with children and using his skills as an artist. Instead of putting him in open jobs, we're really looking at what he wants to do, and we're going to have, I know, a lot more success doing that. The Next Work program at Columbus is run by Amy Wadsworth, and I know Amy is here somewhere. Hello, Amy. And Amy was hired on as a consultant about a year and a half ago, I want to say 2 years ago. 2 years ago. And I was hired on a year ago. And Next Work has 3 different components. We've got programming for young adults 16 years old and older. We have Neuroversity, which was created by the Wrights, Scott and Cheryl Wright, which uses 3D software, SketchUp, to assess young people's interests and ability using that software. We have Lego Robotics Camps, which again we use as assessment to see their strengths, weaknesses, where they excel. We have the employment group that is run by Court Allred, who's here, the Autism Spectrum Disorder Clinic at the U of U. And then we have a brand new program called Digitability, which teaches digital literacy And that was made possible by a grant from the Autism Council of Utah. And Cheryl Wright, thank you very much. So that's one aspect. We also have employment and job coaching services for individuals with autism ready to be employed, or who have been employed and just can't stay employed. And that's in all fields. And then we have our employment of individuals with autism in the IT and high-tech industries, and that's using the Specialistene model, which was conceived by Torkel Sohn, who is here with Specialistene, and that is an assessment and training model. And then partners, State of Utah, Voc Rehab, DSPD, school districts, employers. I see Boeing is here. The ASD clinic at the U of U, Autism Council of Utah, Sorensen Impact Center, et cetera. This is McLean's drawing of jobs that he thought were best for him. And you're gonna notice a theme. There's kids in a lot of these. I should have picked up on this earlier, but I was not a perceptive mom. So a museum guy, and he's showing the alligator, a teacher, and an author, an actor, a Yellowstone guide, and then extra jobs, a cruise ship or jet plane crew, a hunting guide, a scientist, and then a filmmaker. So those are McLean's ideas of jobs that are best for him. And I just thought I'd share that because I should have really focused on that earlier than later, but I'll get to it. So, thank you.
Okay, Chad, CFO of Sorensen. That's huge.
And hello, everyone. I'm Chad Salvador from the Sorensen Impact Center. We are also housed at the University of Utah in the David Eckel School of Business, and our basic mission is to marshal capital for social good and to empower data-driven programs. And how we operate in that way is we work across impact investing, impact measurement, program evaluation and design, and that type of work. And in that capacity, we were recently able to work with the Columbus Community Center on a project looking to understand and quantify the negative consequences of poor employment conditions within the autistic community. And that project basically came down to a couple of main things. First was just trying to get as detailed of an understanding as possible as to what is the community here in Salt Lake, both in terms of aggregate numbers, those coming up, as Safia said, are going to be aging into sort of the workforce age, looking at what that is and how that's going to evolve over time, and then overlaying that with national and international programs which are trying to get employment for people within this community, and then bringing the two together to say, locally here in Utah, what are we all paying as a result of this problem, whether we realize it or not? And if we can move the needle, for the positive in that, what are the potential benefits that we might be able to gain from that? And then basically using that as the rationale to try to divert more resources to this type of work. So that is the basic project, and then what I think was so fascinating about this, and what I think this panel is kind of talking about is what we find in a lot of projects like this is you often have a service provider, practitioner who really understands an issue area, and oftentimes has some more innovative solutions of how to better service that community. Then you have academia, who does a lot of very valuable research and brings a lot of information to this population. Then you have the government and philanthropic communities who pay large amounts of money either directly or indirectly as a result of these issues, But often the three are not in sync as much as they could be, and there's a lot of value in bringing those all those groups together to find more innovative solutions, which both can better service that population, but also be, you know, fiscally better use of money. So that's basically the results of our project, and there's a one-pager that is available back at the registration table that has...
It's in everyone's packet.
Oh, it's everyone's packet.
Yeah.
Fantastic. The one thing I just want to throw out there, which always sticks in the back of my mind after we did this project, was we talk a lot about unemployment and underemployment within the ASD community, but I think one of the most dramatic things is if you look at labor force participation, it's people aren't even searching for jobs. If you look at the neurotypical community, I think labor force participation rates are something like 76%, whereas within the people with disabilities, so the aggregate of all disabilities, that's about 26, 27%. But within the ASD community, it's about 21%, which is the lowest of a lot of disabilities. I believe it's the lowest of any disability. So that kind of overlaid with the, you know, Utah economic condition, which we were talking about earlier this morning, of a very robust economy where, you know, in certain sectors there's chronic labor shortages, and, you know, it presents an opportunity to get creative about how those two issues can be brought together.
Thank you. Cheryl doesn't really need an introduction. I actually heard about her when I was at Dartmouth working with Autism Speaks. It's unbelievable how small the world is.
You're the force in nature.
And when Bill told me about you and I put it all together, I thought, you're kidding. And she's here and she's available. And he said, yeah, and now you get to introduce her.
That sure.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm more well known as Carson's mom, and I used to work for money for Boeing, so I was excited to see my friends here. Now I work for free, but I don't have a boss, so that's priceless, right? So I wanted to talk about advocacy, and I run a small nonprofit called the Autism Council of Utah, and our whole goal is to see what's going on in the state of Utah with autism and to support that and to get that information out to everybody else. So I want everybody to tell me what they're doing with autism so I can get that on our website and everybody will know what that is. I applaud Elliot for his self-advocacy and able to get up here and speak and do all of that. That's great. Carson is more significantly impaired. I like to say he's autism plus. Someone once said to me, oh, he really has it. Yeah, he really does. So I have to be his voice. So my frame of reference is from the more severely affected, so I don't hope I don't offend anyone with the things I say. But advocating comes when you have a child for autism. So I want to thank everybody here who does everything you do, who doesn't have to. I have to, and you don't, and I love you for that, so thank you. So I start when he's small, because I wonder how I'm going to pay for services. And I don't know what I'm doing, but I know something has to be done, and I have the fire because I have the kid. So I start advocating when he's younger, and that's how we got the Carson Smith Special Needs Scholarship passed in the legislation. And then it was, again, how do I pay for it? How do I get him what he needs? Service providers, increasing provider rates, and now he's an adolescent. What about adolescent programs, pre-vocation? So now I'm looking at adult programs. And I've heard the words quality of life a lot here. What do you do when the bus doesn't pick them up anymore and they've aged out? And you don't want them in your basement playing video games or making macaroni necklaces in a day program. I always say that, and it brings a real visual to light. Of course, if he loved making macaroni necklaces more than anything, I'd let him. But, so now I'm involved in a collaborative effort to look at gaps, travel around the state of Utah and in other states and look at best practices and see what are the gaps and how do we fill them. And so right now, our little group is Valley Behavioral Health and Pingree and Intermountain Healthcare and a bunch of moms, and we're looking at well, there seems to be a gap for these more severely affected folks, and I call them autism plus, because I don't like the word low functioning. But what do we have for them? That is a quality of life situation, a vocational community process where they're doing something that really matters. And so I saw that nationally they had an Autism After 21 Day. So I approached a legislator and asked her if she would do this resolution. Interestingly, when we got up in front of the committee, the legislator said to me, "Will you make this sound so bleak?" That was his word. And I nudged Representative Edwards and I said, "It is bleak. Don't be changing those words." And she said, "Oh, I'm not going to." So we were kind. But the situation with the unemployment and the lack of services for adults and where are they going to go and what are they going to do, it is a little bleak, but I want to be hopeful. So I believe this Autism After 21 Day was just an idea whose time had come, kind of. You know, I was downtown, I called Bill McMahon. Bill said, "Hey, let's go over and meet at the Institute." He introduced me to Kathy. We're like, "Let's have a breakfast." We want to highlight the goodness of these folks who have autism. I'm not asking these businesses for any money. I want to show them the remarkable skill sets and assets of these folks who have autism. I want to put my arm around them and say, look how great these guys are and how wonderful it is that they're in our community. And, you know, most parents don't have to worry about what happens to their kid when they're gone. I have 8 children in a combined family, and they're all going to be way more successful than I am. But this one kid, what is going to happen to him when I'm gone? And how great would it be if he could walk down the street in Salt Lake from his program to the bus or the train or whatever and have business owners know him, that he would be safe, that he would be their friend, that he shops in their store and they know if he starts to have a meltdown, oh, maybe we need to turn down the music, or maybe we need to move him over here, or just ask him how he's doing. Let's put our arms around these guys. And it used to be autism awareness, and then I think, well, it's autism acceptance, but I want us to embrace autism and make them a part of our lives and our community.
All right, you still have some hoops to jump through. I'd just like to hear from each of you what you would do with $25 million that I have in my pocket right now. If you had complete free reign. Something existing, something you want to build.
I'll start off. I think one of the things that is missing around those who are able to work and be in the community is the perceptions of the employers and the companies. And I really was excited to hear about this employer survey. We have no idea if they will hire, won't hire. If they won't, why? What could we do to help them? How can we educate the employers, the supports we can give to those with autism so that they can be successful? So with that kind of money, wow, I would start by doing a very deep dive, and it would be with the C-suite employers, and then start using applied research that you guys are going to do and crafting the programming around what we need to do to help these young people be successful in the workplace.
Perfect, and I guess you'd be seeking a match.
Yes.
Okay.
Always.
Cheryl?
I would build an adult community with housing and vocational community opportunities, day programs, whatever you want to call them, for lack of better terms. That's what I'd do.
Awesome.
I have no idea.
Come
No,
on,
my
Sun
brain,
Devil.
I do, pressure. So Utah County is a little bit different than Salt Lake County. in various ways, we're a little behind in terms of having access to diagnostic opportunities, having access to supports. So I think I would actually have to start, I mean, it's hard because we need stuff for adults, we need stuff for kids. In Utah County, we need across the lifespan for sure. So I think I would have to ramp up kind of both ends with my 25 million and the match.
Awesome. Okay, Christina, pressure's on.
It certainly is. I have to echo what's already been stated as far as identifying programs based on what employers are needing. I think a key component that we've seen as we've built up our programs at Spectrum is employer education, is really taking the fear out of having someone with different needs come into your place of business and be successful, given oftentimes very little support, and then knowing that specialized support can be faded back. I think another key component with that would really be heavy on parent education. So although you have adults with disabilities, adults with autism, the parent role doesn't leave that scenario. You still have parents who, as many we all know have gone through, learned about this autism lifestyle as they went. And so to have others kind of reach back and offer their guidance and their support, I think is a crucial aspect of moving any program forward. So I think as many connections we can make with public and private partnerships, the families need to be integrally involved in all of that. And I again agree, creating that adult center, creating those transition opportunities, but really involving all stakeholders who that involves from the ground up. So asking the individuals what their thoughts are, where their strengths are, and then identifying ways to make it all match, because it can happen. And then, of course, getting more money would be great too.
Okay, Chad, triple match?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. I would say implement services to provide, employment training for people within the ASD community, and pair that with rigorous evaluation to know whether those programs are working. We already have, a growing sense of what works well in terms of getting people into employment, but we certainly could learn a lot more. And so I think that, a chunk of that money would be well spent continuing to evaluate what programs continue to work, because it's constantly changing. The job environment is always changing. So as we continue to learn more, we're always going to have to strive to increase that knowledge base. And the final thing is I would say is that evaluation should be focused on the actual outcomes of people that are going through the program. So it's not about the number of people that participate in a program or took the training or all of that. It's about the number of people that actually found meaningful employment and were able to maintain that employment and all of that. And that's a more sophisticated understanding, and it would be great to have those types of resources to put into pairing that with really scaling up program implementation with a really robust evaluation at that scale.
Awesome. And could I ask you, final pain for me, what do you think the most motivating way to go after funding is on these projects? What industry? What's the pitch?
Well, this is a workforce development solution. I think that is going to be how you're going to get funding from the state, from companies, from donors. This is a workforce development solution. Industries, the STEM, IT, high tech, keep saying in this state, we cannot find enough workers to do these jobs. UTC says there's 15,000 open jobs, and we've got a population that has previously been not thought of, that is untapped, that will need supports. This isn't just going to be an easy solution, but with proper supports and training, I see that as one of the answers. But it's not just economic. I mean, we're talking about people. We're talking about individuals' lives. And it's psychological. It's a sense of purpose and belonging and being a contributing member of society and feeling that they are doing something and contributing, however small or however they're able to do that. And as a mom, that's what I focus on. Because when you hear your son say, you know, I'm an educator, I want to help people, I want them to listen to me, I have something to say, I have something to contribute, that kind of trumps how much money he's going to make and how much it's going to help the state. And that's all great, but you just, in the end, want your child to be happy. So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Before I talk about funding, I want to tell you a quick story. My husband is a car dealer, and he had a mother approach him and say, nobody will give my son a chance. Would you hire him? And it's interesting how they went about looking at that, because he really loves organizing paperwork, and he's a very good quality control kind of guy. And nobody would give him a chance. And finally, the mother thought, well, he likes cars. So she went to my husband and just, you know, my husband has a child with autism. So he goes, yeah. And he actually created a job for this boy. Well, he's not a boy, he's a man. All of them are kids to me. Now, the mom cries and brings Frank banana bread every week. But the guy has a job, and he's awesome at it. He is so good at what he does. And I go to the dealership to do HR training, and I started to do my sexual harassment training, and he said, I wish I didn't have to come to this. And I thought, oh, you must be. Now, nobody else wants to come either, but they just don't say it out loud. So with the funding, I start planting seeds a long time before I ask them actually for the money. So, and you know, primarily with legislators, but also companies. A lot of companies now have social programs where they have to donate so much, and the legislators, you know, back in the day when we first started doing this, we had to tell them what autism was. But it's enlightening that we're over that now, and now there isn't anybody who doesn't know somebody who has autism. So it's so much easier for me to plant those seeds. You know, these little kids that are so cute and getting these early intervention services, that's so well needed, but they're all growing up. Kids with autism become adults with autism, and guess what? They want to be part of society. They want to be taxpayers. They want to keep the family unit together. There's a lot of things that appeal to legislators when you're talking to them, and I've started talking to them, you know, probably 5 years ago about adult services. And we're going to get some funding for adult services, because here we are. They don't go away, they're here, and thank goodness for that, right? Yeah, and also talk about the goodness of their skill sets. They have wonderful, remarkable skill sets. They make wonderful employees. This guy that my husband hired is, people love to go by and say hi, and because he's hilarious. And they'll say, hey, what's the party in here? Because everybody wants to go say hi to him, and he says, it's not a party.
Awesome. I have to put a plug in here for the Pathways people who are back here who I've worked with, and we had a person in a dealership also that was just like the life of the party. And he knew how to use those electronic machines that balance tires and do alignments. Nobody could figure that stuff out, and we'd watch him. We'd go there just to watch him, like on our lunch break. Phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. I love the story. All right, Sun Devil, you're up.
So I think the best way I could kind of answer this question is more on the personal side. So I also have a brother on the spectrum. He is 35, and he is smarter than I am, and I can tell you that because he told me. And he's right. It's totally true. He's right. And watching him struggle to get and keep jobs has been, has been one of the most devastating, difficult things for my entire family. And I'm an expert, guys. I'm supposed to know how to do this. and I can't help him. It is the most helpless feeling on planet Earth. Now, partly it's because he lives in Texas, and it makes it harder. But he has gone through job after job after job, and the majority of times that he does not keep a job is because of some social something that happens. And right now I'm working with a colleague, several colleagues actually at UVU, and we're doing autism in the workplace. We're doing some research and surveys and trying to kind of figure the same things out that a lot of people are trying to figure out. Because most of the people that hired my brother had no idea he was on the spectrum, because my brother's not going to tell them. He's not going to confess and admit that. He thinks that's actually more dangerous. And in some employee situations, it is. He still would be discriminated against. So then when he has a meltdown over something, or he doesn't know how to respond when his boss starts talking about inappropriate topics in front of him, he just quits because it's too scary to do anything else. So my biggest part of this is we have got to train employers. Most employers have no idea that they have people on the spectrum working there, and when we've asked, they say, no, nope, not here. I'm sure we don't. And I just want to shake them and go, oh, yes, you do. And let us in, let us help. And that's one of my biggest things, is if we can get in and have some conversations and start to help. Because I don't want to see 35-year-old, very capable humans of not being able to be employed and going, maybe it's time to start looking at disability. That is an expense to our government. That is an expense to all of us if he can't be gainfully employed, and it's an expense to his self-esteem that he can't afford.
Okay, you're funded.
One direction I think that is time and again really hits home for anybody who's looking to donate and offer their support is those personal stories. Just hearing from the other panelists up here and hearing how autism directly affects their lives and the experiences that they've had is really tell the story, tell the success story, tell the struggle stories. Identify how the supports that all these funds would put in place can make a difference and make a change. With one of our programs that we started a few years ago, we had a teacher who started making matches out in the community with different companies, and one of them was Little Caesars. And so we had this student. He's now an adult and he's over 18, and when I first met him, he was a fourth grader who was pretty limited on his verbal skills, but he was in my class, and my earliest memory of him was him having a really tough time with this personality he had created, and he was under my desk and kind of rocking, and it was really difficult to just get him out from under the desk. So then fast forward quite a few years, and now he's placed in this job at Little Caesars, where if a situation like that happened, he probably would have also lost his job. With the supports that we had in place with the job coach going, really educating the owner of Little Caesars, we were able to remove all those supports from him to where it was natural, and they just worked with him to the point where he had some dexterity issues when he was trying to fill the sauce cups. His boss solved it, bought him a special ladle, and that was it. He was able to continue his job. And so it's something that small and that simple can remove and potentially alleviate a really terrifying, truly terrifying experience for someone who doesn't have the special training that a lot of us do. And it really is, as had been stated already, educating those employers, letting them know the success stories and how the struggles can turn into successes as we really dig down to individual stories.
Thank you.
I would say that I think the approach that works best is the personal stories paired with data and data that's specific to the group that you're talking to. So if you're talking to employers, it's the kind of information they care about, things like, what are the potential, retention benefits associated with this? What is the cost of some concessions that might be made? Sometimes it's as simple as, a different ladle for doing that, but that has a very big impact. But I think that it's the unknown that a lot of people don't know, and so as much information that we can do to help those unknowns become more knowns, then it becomes a lot more manageable to take on that risk. And so, I'm a big data person in general. I know that there's a lot of deficiencies in that, but I think the effective customized use of data paired with those personal stories can make a very compelling argument.
Awesome. Data's good. My personal story is that the kid in my family who was on the spectrum was nonverbal forever, and ended up working in a sound booth at a major opera in the United States, and is just blissful. But it took years and years and years and years of trial and error. I mean, everything from selling popcorn at a baseball game to, we tried everything that we liked, so he must like this. An opera, nobody. It was Ripley's, but it was well worth the 17 years of travel. So I've masterfully organized this to have 9 minutes and 33 seconds left. So they're all yours.
Questions?
Oh, come on.
You mentioned that Utah County is a little different. We know that.
Don't film that part.
You shared that you don't really have the full spectrum of services that you'd like to have, but you did something remarkable, which was at the college level with a group of donors and parents, I'm assuming, and some real visionary people. You carved space into the university setting. And so what were some of the pieces that led you to do that successfully without some of that other infrastructure? And probably not enough money to do it. You didn't have that extra 25 million.
No, not yet. Apparently it's coming. So that's good to know. So the question was kind of how did we carve out a way to start some services and to start putting some things together at UVU? And Stephanie's exactly right. It was a lot of, it came from families who were impacted by autism in some way, shape, or form, who also had the means to give and support. We have Melissa Nellison, the center's named after her. Her family has been extremely generous. The Hurstwood Education Foundation has been extremely generous. Vivint, there's a lot of people who have said, yeah, we want to take this on. We also have President Matt Holland who said, okay, I see the need. Almost every meeting he went to for a couple of years, somebody said something to him about, hey, when's the university going to do something about autism? So he kept hearing it over and over and over again. And honestly, one of the most amazing things is that there's a lot of people in Utah County who want to be doing things. They just haven't had a space or a pathway to do that. So we've really been able to, we're kind of the educational hub. So we're able to bring people together and say, okay, you're not doing this, but this group is, and let us show you how you can connect. We don't have this service here in Utah County, but they have it in Salt Lake County, so we're gonna bring it down here and figure it out. So we have had amazing people who are willing to spend a lot of time and be really innovative at making that work. And it's partly what he was talking about before, what John mentioned about that collaboration piece. People have been willing to collaborate with us in amazing ways, in ways that I have not seen happen in other states. And I am extremely grateful for that because it's been one of the things that I think has truly allowed us to grow. I mean, 5 years ago when I came to UVU, they'd had an autism conference. Now we have an autism conference, a certificate of proficiency in autism, a minor, our master's degree is starting this fall. We have a new building, we have new programming. That's been amazing to watch happen in 5 years, and that comes from people who can be forward thinkers and collaborate together because no one can do that alone.
There was a gal back here who had a question.
Mine's just, I was curious about how old the plane was when you drew the picture of the top.
Oh, job's best for me?
Yes.
Yes. He drew that in my office at Westminster. I want to say 18, 17, 18 is when he drew that. He'll be 22 next week. So, yeah, so he had much more of a grip on, more than his mother, on what he wanted to do and what would be, things that he would excel in. So, yeah, he was.
Well, I thought that was fascinating because my child is telling me he's 13
Chandeliers, okay.
Find him a job washing chandeliers. Yeah. Listen to him.
This is a social venture capital project. Seriously. We can start an empire. We'll talk. No question.
So I have a question for Chad. So this concept of impact investing is very complex and hard to understand. Could you kind of explain how it might work for employment for individuals with autism? Well, maybe hypothetically, but just how would that work?
Certainly, yes.
Maybe not hypothetically.
Oh yeah, hopefully not. Hopefully not, and we'll try to do it in 4 minutes or less. But basically, I don't know how familiar people are with the concept of pay for success and social impact bonds. But basically, what that concept is trying to do is it's basically performance-based contracting, and so it says, let's take this approach and let's have the financial incentives actually align with our level of success, and let's actually have that level of success be defined by the outcomes like we were talking about earlier. So for example, let's have the state, in most likely case, pay for every person within the ASD community we can get into a job, and then maybe there's subsequent payments for every 6 months or something that person is able to maintain that job. So that's the basic concept of that, and what you're trying to do is you're trying to leverage those direct savings and other benefits to that government, as well as the other societal benefits that the government sometimes will stand in and be willing to monetize those, saying that we know that overall we're all better off if we're able to accomplish this, and so we would be willing to pay for each positive outcome that we're able to achieve. So the whole process gets a little more complicated than that, but that's basically this at its core, and this is something that it definitely could work in this scenario because it's a very costly problem. There's a lot of negative benefit or negative things associated with having people who are unemployed, who really otherwise could be with a few relatively minor concessions. And so it's using that potential, cost benefit. If we can divert a little bit of funding to the prevention side versus paying this costly and, the rest of your life, this cure, that's something that makes a lot of sense. So it's trying to use that rationale to divert some funding to that side of the equation. Did that answer your question? It could be either the traditional pay-for-success model, which is something that's very rapidly evolving, but that is where you have a back-end payer, which historically has always been a government entity on some level, be it city or county or state. And that's often because they are the primary beneficiary of a lot of those benefits. Things like, increased income tax collection, reduction, and other social services having to pay. So since they are the main beneficiary, it's often the government who would be that back-end payer, but it doesn't have to be. Within that model, depending on how long the lag between when you're implementing the program and when you're hoping to start to realize the benefits, that's where you get the injection of a private investor to help provide that upfront seed funding so that the program can be launched. It's also that structure that allows that risk to be shifted from that government entity onto that investor so that you can make that pitch to that back-end payers, that government entity to say, hey, we think we have a better solution. Here's all the evidence to support why we think this is a better solution. But if we're wrong, it's not going to cost you anything because, again, we're only going to pay for however successful we are with this. So that's, this is something that there's entire conferences talking about this kind of thing. So hopefully that gives a quick overview, but happy to talk about it more.
But isn't that a problem in Utah where it's a zero-sum game for very limited tax dollars?
It can be. I think that's always the case, is there's always finite resources. One of the things that I like to think about is that when we're talking about this as an incremental program, what we're not really thinking about in a lot of terms is essentially every other government dollar we're spending, we've put through the same level of rigor through which we would put this new incremental program. And so I think even if a lot of times it may mean diverting funding from another program to this, that often that's something where we're focusing on ensuring that we're spending that money on effective programs, which unfortunately I think a lot of times that's not the case, that every dollar already passes that screen. So what you're trying to do is find the money that is better spent through this mechanism. Again, it's not always the case that you're taking from one pot in order to do this. And again, you're only paying for what's successful, which helps mitigate that as well.
Okay. We were obviously the most popular group, so give them a big hand.